Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, you know what? I just made a video about Jermall Charlo. And before I get into this video, guys, please smash the like button on this video. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, guys. I really need you to smash the like button on this video. If you can please smash the like button on this video, I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, let me get into this video, guys. I've just made a video about Jermall Charlo and criticized Jermall Charlo, and now I've seen another article which has actually spun my mind, spun my brain, and I can't believe what I've just read. Jermall Charlo has called out Terence Crawford. Jermall, not Jermell, Jermall Charlo has said that he would come back down to 154 to fight Terence Bud Crawford. He's calling out a middleweight, is calling out a welterweight to meet him at 154. He said he'd come back down to 154. Can you believe it? Jermall Charlo at this point is looking really bad. You know, this is a guy that didn't want to fight Demetrius Andrade. This is a guy that doesn't want to fight David Benavidez. Or he's not interested. But he's talking about fighting Terence Crawford. He's openly saying that I'll be happily to fight Terence Crawford, a welterweight. A welterweight. A middleweight champion is calling out a welterweight to fight at 154. Embarrassing. Look, I like Jermall Charlo. I'm very high on Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo, for me, is going down in a lot of boxing fans' estimation. You know, one of my good, I would like to call him and even a mate, D Money. You know, D Money's a good guy. You know, he says it how it is. He spits the truth, and he said he's done with Charlo. He goes, I can't be asked with Charlo anymore. I'm done. I'm totally done with him. I can't be asked. You know, he's a letdown. He's not that guy that I thought he was. So, you know, there's people that are giving up on Jermall Charlo, and these type of moves, calling out Terence Crawford to fight at 154, is absurd, because Crawford's a welterweight. You know, you're a middleweight champion and you want to fight him at 154. I don't know, how does that look good? That looks bad, don't it? It looks terrible on Charlo's part. Charlo's got to get his thing together, man. He's not fighting Selecki. We want to see this guy in big fights. We want to see this guy fight the best. Unfortunately, we're not getting it. His moves, I feel like he's a bit confused. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know whether to stick or twist. And I can understand why, because let's be brutally honest, where's he going with his career at this particular point? Like, people want to see him fight somebody. He doesn't seem that interested in the Benavidez fight. He doesn't seem that interested in an Andrade fight. And he's kind of running out of guys, relevant guys that, you know, he can fight. So he's probably thinking to himself, Crawford's a smaller guy. Let me go back down to 154 and I'll fight Terence Crawford at 154. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I think it's absurd, to be, if I'm brutally honest with you. I don't think it's a fight that makes any kind of sense. I don't think it's a fight that maybe Terence Crawford would look at it at 154, because Crawford, I think after the Spence fight, if Crawford beats Spence, you know, he's definitely going up there at 154 because he's looking at those guys. But the fact that a middleweight champion would be calling out a welterweight, like, even if Jermall Charlo was to beat Terence Crawford, he gets no credit for it because he's fighting such a smaller guy. People aren't going to get, the only guy that's going to get credit for it is Terence Crawford. And if Terence Crawford was to embarrass and outbox Charlo, which would be very difficult to do, Charlo's a very big guy, it would make Jermall Charlo look so bad. But anyway, the fact that Jermall Charlo's even calling out a welterweight, you know, it's pretty embarrassing to say that I'd fight him at 154. It's crazy. It's, you know, yeah. You know, sometimes, look, the interview can be, you know, taken out of context. But the fact that he said it, I've read the interview, he said it. You know, I don't know what he, like, you know, sometimes things can be taken out of context. He might not be that keen on fighting Terence Crawford. But at the end of the day, I read it. He said it. He said that I would come back down to 154 to fight Terence Crawford. You know, that was in writing. I haven't got my laptop, or I would actually read out the article. I'm not going to get my laptop up and can't be asked, but I've read the article, and he basically said I would come back down to 154 to fight Terence Crawford, which there's guys at middleweight that we want to see him fight. You know, there's guys out there at middleweight like Andrade. Andrade ain't got a fight right now. I don't know what's going on with Zach Parker. You just pulled out a fight with an injury. Are you contractually tied to that? Can you make a fight? You know, they're talking about a fight with Munguia, maybe a fight with Andrade. You know, just make the fight, for God's sake. Just give us the fight that we want to see. It's boring. You know, all this stuff is boring. Terence Crawford has got his stuff to deal with with Errol Spence. You know, the world doesn't want to see Jermall Charlo v Terence Crawford. They want to see Terence Crawford v Errol Spence, and they want to see Jermall Charlo v Demetrius Andrade. That's what the boxing fans want to see. We don't really want to see Jermall Charlo and Terence Crawford. That don't really do anything for anybody. You know, of course, people will tune in and people will watch it, of course, but there's other fights out there that make more sense that the boxing fans want to see, and that's Charlo and Andrade and Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. Make those fights. Those are the fights that we want to see. We don't want to see one guy coming down from 160 to 154 where he might be drained, and Terence Crawford coming up to 154 where it's a weight class where he's not really, where he doesn't belong. Look, Terence Crawford and Jermall Charlo is a different ballgame altogether, because Jermall's been fighting at 154 and Terence will just be jumping up another weight class. But when we're talking about one guy coming down, and Charlo, we know that Jermall Charlo's a big guy, but there was talk about him going to 168. And now that, you know, he's saying he'd come back down to 154, which is absolutely ludicrous, really, when you think about it. You know, this is a very big guy coming back down to 154. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be easy for him to make. Maybe he'll be able to make it. Maybe Charlo's a genetical freak and be able to make 154 again. But I don't think that's good. I don't think that's a good idea. If I'm honest with you, I don't think that's a good idea at all. You know, from a guy that's a really big like Charlo to come back down to 154 to fight Terence Crawford, you know, yeah, I don't think that's a good move at all. I think if Terence Crawford is going to fight at 154, I'd like to see him fight his brother, not Jermall, who's at 160 and who's been at 160 for a while now. You know, it's not like Jermall Charlo has just gone up to middleweight. He's been there for a while. So, nah, I'm not sold on that idea. I'm not really that interested. I want to see Jermall Charlo fight guys at middleweight, top middleweights, which he hasn't done since he's moved to middleweight. Let's be brutally honest. He hasn't fought a top middleweight, and that's the truth. He hasn't fought Andrade. He hasn't fought Golovkin. Obviously, he may want to fight Golovkin, but Golovkin's fighting Canelo. Also, the other champion, it was Morato. So Golovkin is a unified champion. So the only fight really out there for him is Andrade if he wants to unify. But there's other guys out there. Munguia is a fight that, you know, people would be interested in. There's Janabek. That would be a good fight. And the other fights he's got on his platform, he's got Caleb Plant, he's got David Benavidez. You know, he needs to stop thinking about Canelo. But Terence Crawford's another one. He needs to stop thinking about that. That's not really, for me, that's not really practical, really, when you think about it. I think he should let that Canelo fight go and the Terence Crawford fight, because these aren't fights that are gonna happen anytime soon. So yeah, I think I would like to see Jermall Charlo and Demetrius Andrade. I don't know why that fight hasn't been made. You know, these are guys that have been around the same weight class. It's not been made at 154. It's not been made now. When is it going to be made? Calling out Terence Crawford, we know that fight's not going to happen, so it's just ridiculous even calling him out. But it's not a fight that should happen. The weight classes apart. Charlo's massive. And I don't think because if he loses to Terence Crawford, just say at 154, there'll be an excuse, I was drained. You know, if Terence Crawford goes and fights, you know, he'll say, oh, well, he was too small. So at the end of the day, the fights to be made is Charlo and Andrade and Crawford and Spence. These are the fights that us boxing fans want to see. Charlo for me, he needs to get a move on, man. He needs to get a move on with his career. Same with Andrade. Both of these guys need to get a move on. Hence why I think it makes sense for them to fight each other. You know, Benavidez is still young. You know, Caleb Plant's already had his big fight with Canelo. So Caleb Plant's got time on his side as well. Benavidez has got time on his side. David Morella's got time on his side. But the guys that haven't got time are guys like Charlo and Andrade, who are getting up there in age. He's getting up there in age, and there's still no sign of any meaningful fight. So, yeah, man, let's hope that Charlo can fight a Benavidez, a Plant, or a Andrade in the near future, because I'm getting irritated with these guys' careers, you know. It seems like we're never going to get a big fight. It's almost wasted talent potential. You know, we don't know how good these guys are. And it seems like right now we're never going to find out how good they are, because there doesn't seem to be that much desire to fight the best or to fight the other top guys in around the division. It doesn't seem like it. That's what it doesn't seem like it, because why isn't the fight happening? You know, it doesn't make any sense. It's just not happening. It's frustrating for fans. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it, man. I honestly don't get it. It's really frustrating for fans that, you know, we time and time again in boxing don't get the fights we want to see, and these are fights we really want to see. You know, Charlo and Andrade is a top fight. You know, we're talking about two undefeated 2-weight world champions. You know, it doesn't get bigger than that. It doesn't get bigger than that. And stylistically, a great fight. One's a good boxer. One's a good, solid boxer with a good jab that can punch a little bit, that's explosive, you know, that's strong, physically strong. You know, would Andrade's style be all wrong for Charlo? Could Charlo cut the ring off and make it a dog fight where he tires and wears Andrade down? Who knows? But that's what makes the fight great and a great watch. But, you know, these guys have to get in the ring and make the deals and you know, give the fight fans what we want to see, which is them two in the ring with each other. Calling out Terence Crawford in a fight which is really impossible. You know, it's not impossible. We've seen fights that we thought were impossible happen, but, you know, it's not something that fans are that interested in. No one's talking about Jermall Charlo and Terence Crawford. You know, it's not a reality. Yeah, they will start talking about it if it gets made, you know, but it's almost like a freak show rather than what we want to see. We want to see Crawford and Spence, and we want to see Charlo and Andrade. That's the fight. Those are the fights, realistic fights, fights that fans are clamoring for and calling out for. But these guys have to want it. They have to want it. The fans can call for it all they want. If they don't want it, the promoters don't want it, then it's never going to happen, man. But leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Shockingly, Jermall Charlo calls out Terence Crawford, said he's willing to come back down to 154 to fight Terence Crawford. What are your thoughts? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.